Hello out there in Nila land. We commence again our Parsha series. This week's Parsha is Vayera. We were always excited to learn Vayera, the story of the Akedah, all these seminal stories of the Jewish people, the beginning with Avram, with Sarah, finally turning from Avram to Avraham, from Sarai to Sarah. And today's shir, of course, is Lili Nishmas Rachel Leah Bas Reb Chaim Tzvi Shalom. We begin by thanking the great staff of Na'aleh, particularly Mrs. Libby Bomser, who's so particular to make sure everything runs so smoothly in the studio, with so many employees in the studio. How she's able to manage it is amazing. Just makes me slack-jawed, agog of Twitter. Okay, we begin. And God appears to Avram and Elonei Mamre, and he's sitting at his tent in the heat of the day. Now we know what happened was, and Rashi explains very nicely, let's just take a quick peek at Rashi, that what is God doing to visit him? God is coming to visit the sick. Avram just underwent circumcision. He's in the third day, which is the most severe day of pain after a circumcision, and God comes to visit him. Now, it's very hot. God makes it very hot that day so that Avram, who is such a tremendous host, should not be out looking for guests because the sun was taken out of its normal covering. Extreme heat, intense arid conditions. It's normally going outside so Avram does not be bothered by tending to guests. He lifts up his eyes, and here there are three men coming towards him, three very stately men, and he runs towards them from his tent. This was the tent with four openings, open to four different directions so he could be hospitable. In the heat of the day, and three men. These three men are angels, but the verse describes them as men because they are disguised as men. Only once later on will they be called angels, but all the time, when in Rome do as Romans, they are acting like, conducting themselves exactly like humans. Even though an angel doesn't eat, these people feign that they're going to eat and partake of Avram's hospitality. These three angels, one is coming to tell the good news that Sarah is going to conceive, one is going to inform that he's going to overthrow the land of stone, and one of them is going to, Raphael is going to heal Abraham. And why do you need three angels? Because an angel can only do one thing. An angel can only do one thing. We are multi-talented, we'll multitask, but an angel can only do one and only one thing. Okay. So he says, my Lord, Lord and Taylor, my Lord, if I have found favor in your eyes, please do not pass before your servant. In other words, Avram is beseeching them, I want to be hospitable to you. Please don't leave me here. From here the rabbis derive, greater is hospitality to wayfarers than receiving the divine presence. Well, what happened here? God had come to visit him. God is here and he says, oh, God, just 1 second please. Knock on the door. Phone is ringing. Excuse me. Oh, a guest. God, hold on a sec. He runs out to deal with these guests, to be hospitable to them, and he keeps God hanging all this time. He's never censured for this. From here we learn out that hospitality is even more important than taking care of the divine presence. Okay, so here's a question. We learn out from Avram that being hospitable is even more important than greeting the divine presence. Question, how did Abraham know that? We learned it out from him, but how did he know that? And the answer is, if a king is someone's house guest, and during the royal visit of the king's child comes with him, and then there's an urgent request, and let's say the king's child gets hurt, and you tend to the child, and you give him a band-aid, and you try and lower his fever, will the king feel slighted that you stopped ignoring him? Of course not. Because serving the child is serving the king. Likewise, Abraham. Even after his circumcision, every instinct and every organ of his was devoted to serving God. And by hurrying out and extending himself on behalf of God's creatures, was still in the service of God. So explains the Tanchum HaYoshon. There's a well-known story that when Reb Leib Chasman, who was the mashgiach in the Chevron Yeshiva, a Talmud of the Kelmer Yeshiva, he went to spend one Shabbos in the home of the Chafetz Chaim. The Chafetz Chaim came home from Shul, he made Kiddush right away, and they ate. They washed their hands and they ate. And Reb Leib Chasman was surprised. What about Shalom Aleichem, greeting the angels? What about Eshes Chaim? The Chafetz Chaim explained, listen here, the angels can wait, but I have a hungry guest, I must tend to the hungry guest. And therefore, the angels can wait a few minutes, I'll greet them later. But a person has to be treated as a kingly person, with an from Avram, how to treat people. Even if you can make God wait, and certainly you can make angels wait a few minutes. So he says, let some water be brought and wash your feet, and recline beneath the tree. These, as he assumed they were Arab sojourners, they would actually worship the feet of the dust on their feet. I find this a tad strange, but what do I know about Arab customs? But they would worship this dust, and so Avram doesn't want to bring this avodah zarah, this idolatrous practice into his home. So the first thing he does is he washes their feet. I find it strange now that Arabs today, Muslims, when they have to wash anything before they pray, we know before we pray we wash our hands. Muslims wash their feet before they pray. I think I might have read that once, but I actually saw it. I was in Heathrow Airport. Anywhere you go in Europe, there are just endless amounts of Muslims. So I had to daven mincha